go. There we go. All right, before I introduce our next amazing host for the next hour, I want to go ahead and give a quick PSA. LSS conference tickets for the live offline conference that was previously sold out, 750 tickets. There's going to be 300 more tickets for sale tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific. So make sure you have that link. I think I emailed everybody. But how many people here are going to conference? Who has their conference tickets? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Jennifer Glover will be at conference tomorrow, 10 a.m. There's only 300 tickets left. There are 10,000 LSS students. So if you want to be surrounded by greatness, I see Robin Schmidt on here right here. She's going to be there, the one and only. So if you ever want to know what it's like to be in a room of 1,000 signing agents who all crush it, meet new friends, learn from each other, it's going to be bananas. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce the one and only, I don't even know if she needs an introduction, but Jennifer Glover, now Jennifer Garland, I apologize, is the owner of Prestige Notaries, a $5 million a year signing service. Also the owner and founder of Notary Dash, where some of you get business from her database. So with that being said, she's going to take an hour. She has a hard stop at 5 o'clock. So she's going to do a training, almost commonly missed items. She's also going to tell you how she gets people marked preferred. So at the end, don't hesitate to raise your hand. Use the icon down below. When she says for questions, use the icon to raise your hand. She will call an interview. So I hope everyone enjoys the next hour with Jennifer. Thank you so much, Jennifer. The crowd is yours. Can we all give one big round of applause for Jennifer Glover, please?
Hello, can everybody hear me okay? All right. Mark, if you can make me host so I can share my screen.
Boom, you got it?
Perfect. There we go. All right. So thank you all for having me today. I'm really excited to go over the most common errors and what it takes to be a preferred signing agent with my service, and often, you know, what works with other services that I'm aware of. So first, I wanted to kind of give you a background on why errors are so urgent, right? When someone calls you and says, hey, I need to get this fixed right now, it's urgent, and signing services or title companies, they're acting like it's the end of the world, that you forgot your stamp, and it seems so small. But I kind of wanted to go just take a step back and look at, you know, what that does. I'm not sure, you know, where all you come from. I know you come from many different backgrounds, but whether it's a refinance or a purchase or a sell, we typically have, you know, a clear to close date, and then the documents are prepared and they schedule to disperse or to close on a specific date, right? So a refinance only has the borrowers involved. There's no realtor. There's just a loan officer, title company, and the borrowers. When a refinance, whenever they lock in their rate, they purchase their interest rate for a set number of days. That's their rate lock, right? That's what it's called, or interest rate lock. And so typically they'll buy that interest rate for 15 days, maybe 30 days. Rarely do they get it for more than 30 or 45 days, right? So the reason for this is that you're paying per day to lock that rate. It might cost $100. It might cost $500. If you're buying down the interest rate, so say the par is 3.5, but somebody really wants, oh, hold on. How do I mute everybody? if everybody, you know, if somebody wants a 3% rate, they're going to buy down their interest rate. They might pay $3,000 to buy that interest rate down. And each additional day, maybe they got it for 15 days. So maybe each additional day could cost $300, right? So now, hold on one second. I'm going to mute everybody except for me. All right. So what happens is, as long as you extend that interest rate before that rate lock expires, then it's just the same rate, right? So if you paid $200 a day for that rate, it's going to cost another $200 per day, right? But if, for instance, if that rate lock, and every lender is different, it might be that the rate lock, that you have to sign by the rate lock. It might be that you have to have the cancellation period has to be within that rate lock, or it might be that it actually has to fund within that rate lock. Every lender is different. But some of them, it actually has to sign by that rate lock, which means by the time that the documents get back to title and you're set to close, they can't extend, right? They can't redraw docs or anything. If they have to re-lock that rate and extend it out further, it might cost them 3 and 4 times that rate. So it could cost them $800 a day just to extend, you know, for one day. These are real numbers. These are numbers that I have seen. These are actually numbers that I have paid, right? So whenever someone calls you and says, hey, like, I need to get this, you know, we're scheduled to fund today, that funding deadline, if we're on the West Coast, that funding deadline's typically like 1:30, 2:30 at the latest, if it's a traditional refinance. And the reason being is they have to fund before the Federal Reserve closes, because they have to wire the money, and they can only wire money while the Federal Reserve is still open. And I believe the Federal Reserve, you know, pretty much closes at 5 o'clock or maybe even 4:30. But that's why there's the early deadlines. If you're on the West Coast, the deadlines are so early, right? But the lender has to get it. Somebody has to process it. Someone, you know, I mean, there's all this stuff they have to record. Recording deadlines are typically around 2:30 in the day. Recording means you're recording with the county. So if something's set to close on Tuesday and they call you at 10 o'clock and they say, I need this in 2 hours, they actually really do need it within 2 hours. And it is possible that if they do not get that, then the whole loan falls apart. They have to re-lock that rate. They have to, you know, they have to redraw documents. They have to, you know, reorganize these numbers. You're talking like 100 emails back and forth between lenders and title and upset borrowers, and someone has to pay that money, and the lender can't just waive that money because it, you know, it's heavily regulated. So typically the borrowers have to pay that money. Okay. And that's where signing services like myself come in, and we guarantee our work. But as you can understand, if a notary costs me $800 once, like, you know, that hits my pocket. I mean, I have to do 16 signings or 19 signings to make up for that $800, right? So it's really, really important to just do it right the first time. And if you don't do it right the first time, then, you know, then make it a priority. I always say that you can't move on to the next signing until you finish the last, or the last 10, 20 signings ago, right? You can't like, just like if you were in the middle of a signing, you can't say, oops, gotta go. You know, I'm going to go on to my next one because I haven't scheduled. You're going to finish that signing, right? It doesn't matter that you've already shipped. It doesn't matter that everyone has the documents, and they can't, and oftentimes they can't just hire another notary to do it because it needs to be from that original package. And there's a lot of talk about what states allow notaries to make corrections to acknowledgments or jurats, notarizations. Some states allow it, some states frown upon it, some states, you know, have verbiage about making a correction to a notary. And so it's really just so important to, number one, understand your notary laws. Number two, understand the weight of your error. And number three, get it done, like make it a priority. You know, if I call a notary and I say, hey, you know, we need to get this in the next 45 minutes. And that happens sometimes. And, you know, and the notary can get mad and say, oh, you know, how dare you make this, you know, such a stressful time for me. You know, you've had these documents for 2 days. I get it, right? Like, totally get it. I wish the title company would review all the documents as soon as they got them, but they don't. A lot of times they just trust that the notary got it done right. They look at it first thing in the morning, the day that they're going to fund, and then it's a fire to put out. You know, and so you know, I'm just giving you some true heartfelt, you know, I don't ever have any ill feelings towards anybody when they make an error. I know how frustrating and stressful it is. I've cried myself when I've made an error. And so I'm just want to go over these most common errors to help you all you know, develop some practices to help you have error-free signings. Okay, that's really the goal. Now, what I want to tell you is I've done over 18,000 closings, and I'm not special. Out of 18,000 closings, I've had 2 errors. Okay, so if I can do it, you can do it too, right? So if you've made 2 errors today, I want you to just say, you know what? From this point on, I'm going to have error-free closings. All right. I'm going to know my documents. I'm going to review my documents, and I'm going to send back my documents with confidence that they're done right. But if I get a call, I'm going to take a step back, say, all right, I need to get this one done. If you have another signing scheduled in 2 hours, call the title company, call signing, say, hey, and I'm talking about the one that you have scheduled. Call them and say, hey, I have an error that I need to correct. I'm so very sorry. Can I reschedule this? Can I push this back? Or can you find someone else to do it? I'm so very sorry. I promise you, I know they might be frustrated. They might, but they will respect you for taking care of that other deal. Like, they know how important it is. Okay. So, so some costs associated with errors: rate lock extensions, relock rates, hotels for displaced sellers and home buyers, right? If they planned on closing on Friday and don't close till Monday, moving costs, moving trucks, storage, because they've already moved out of their own home and now they're planning on moving in over the weekend, and now they don't have somewhere to move until Monday or maybe even Tuesday. I've been in that position before. Missed end of month closing can cause a mortgage payment to come due. Oftentimes borrowers, if they're closing in May, right, that month end rush, they don't pay their May mortgage, right? So they'll skip May and they'll skip June, and they won't have another payment due until July. So so all of a sudden they're not planning on making that $1,000 mortgage payment or that $2,000 mortgage payment. Maybe they've already spent that money, right? Maybe they are on a fixed income. Okay. So think of it, someone who's on a fixed income, they weren't planning on, and of course they should have been responsible. I'll step back. They should have been responsible and not spent their money when their loan officer said they were going to skip their May mortgage, but they've spent the money because they expected it to close. It's now come due. It's May 31st. They need to make their payment. If they don't, they now have a 30-day late on their credit report. They've lost that refinance. They can't do that refinance for most lenders for 6 months, maybe 12 months. If you have a 30-day late, it's going to drop your interest rate upwards of 50 points, and you're not going to be able to get it. If you have 2 30-day lates, I think you have to wait at least 12 months. So most common errors: missed signatures or missed initials. Okay, obviously, missed notary stamp and or missed notary signature. So I'm going to go over those two first. How I make sure that the documents get signed and initialed and stamped and signed by me. I double check every single, I always hold all the paper right here in front of me. I never hand several pages to the borrower. I never, I never hand them the stack. I definitely never hand them the stack. And so when I'm going through the documents, if I get to a deed of trust and it requires 15 pages of initials, to borrowers, everyone needs to initial, I hand them one page at a time. We do it like an assembly line, right? I say, this is your security instrument. It's the document that's recorded with the county to act as your lien. We're going to initial every single page right here. I want to make sure that you don't go into the white the white margin on the 1 inch. Each of you will initial, Mr., you're going to initial on the left side, Mrs., you're going to initial on the right side. And I hand it to the first person on my left. I watch them do it. They hand it to the right one. I watch them do it. She hands it back to me. I look at it, make sure it's done right. I flip it over. I hand them the next. I do it again. I do it again, right? So I watch them sign an initial where they're supposed to sign an initial. I check it when they give it to me, right? I check, make sure it's right. Then I turn it over, right? And then at the end of that signing, I go through all the documents again, right? Now, what something else that I train experienced signing agents, I tell them to check your page from back, check your documents from the last page to the first page. And the reason I say that is things get so monotonous, right? We get so used to the same documents over and over, and our brain expects that signature is going to be there. We expect that the initial is going to be there. It's like muscle memory, right? And so even if it's not there, we won't see that we missed it. So if you turn the package over upside down, just it's already upside down because you've been flipping it over, and then just start looking, last page, last page, last page, and look everything. And so that way you're not really paying attention to what document it is and where that signature initial, like you're not like, oh, that's the 1003, it's going to sign on the first page, sign on the fourth page. So, like you're not automatically doing that. You go, oh, this is the fourth page. Okay, let me look for the signatures. It's a really, really good trick. And when you get used to doing it backwards, you can do it frontwards again. All right. Incomplete notarial certificates are incorrect, and then incomplete notarial certificates. So I never fill anything out prior to a signing. I do it right there at the table. I do it in the middle of when they do, they sign their signature name affidavit, they give it back to me. I notarize, I fill it in there. I make sure the county, the date, their names, all of that spelled right. And then I stamp it. That's the way I do it. That's the way that it works for me. That's the way that helps me have error-free signings. Okay. Missed signature on 1003 uniform residential loan application. So how many here have seen the new wonky 1003 that's like 12 pages? Yeah, it's like, you see. So I've only seen it like 3 times now, and I was gonna bring one up and couldn't find it. Maybe Mark has one, but one of my notaries, a notary that works for me a lot, does about 5 signings a day. He called me yesterday and he said, Jennifer, guess what? And he goes, there's an initial on the first page of the new 1003. And I was like, yeah, I know. And he goes, why didn't you tell me? Because I've done like 30 signings and I haven't gotten one initial, right? So it's on the first page, and I might even find one while I'm talking here. It's whenever the borrower is signing on the first page, there's this one little itty bitty initial line that they initial, right? So they're no longer doing the joint credit application, blah, 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 and they sign at the top of page 1. They're now initialing right there in the middle of the page, right by their names. And it's a little statement about joint credit. And then the second borrower, if they're married, is going to initial in the middle of page 2. Okay. And then I believe they sign over on page 10 or page 12. I think I might have even found an example here. I'll look for it. Yeah, it looks like we got one here. So let me share that screen. Oops. So here we go. Great old internet, right? Can everyone see that? Yeah, no, you can't see my screen. Hold on. Now? All right. Okay, so the new 1003, it's right here. See where it says each borrower intends to apply for joint credit, your initials, right here. And so then there's a second page, and I don't think I have the second page here. The second page just really, you know, after it discusses the first borrower's marital status, current address, occupation, all of that, then it goes into the second borrower and it has the same thing. Each borrower, and it says I'm applying for individual credit or I'm applying for joint credit, total number of borrowers, 2. So it'll say 4. If you have 4 borrowers, you look for 4 different initial spots. If there's 2 borrowers, you look for 2 different initial spots. Okay. So there we go. There we have it. Let's see if I'm sharing the right screen now. Okay, I am. All right. So incomplete, Miss 1003, initials on the 1003 uniform. All right, corrections made without approval. That is such a big one, especially names and dates and even addresses. So, and write this down for especially new loan signing agents. These are questions you're going to see. Write it down. Okay, very easy. Do not make corrections to documents without getting approval. Just that. All right, that's what I want you to write down. We see names spelled wrong, right? You'll have lenders that don't want you to make corrections to the name. They, you know, it's not without the whole document. They might let you make a little correction under the signature line. You're probably just wasting your time making corrections on documents that they're going to sign if it's a lender. If it's a seller signing, the title company might be completely fine with you making those corrections. But every title company is different. You have to check with the company that hired you. Do not make corrections to documents, especially names. Dates. There are dates at the top of the pages and dates within the documents. All right. Those dates are not always the date that you're signing. Sometimes those dates are in the past. Sometimes those dates are in the future. Okay. And now you can check with the hiring company and ask them, hey, is it okay that the dates aren't today? That's fine, because some lenders do require you to sign on the day that the documents are dated for, but most don't. It's more of a state thing. But if the dates are wrong at the top, I don't care if they're in the past, I don't care if they're in the future, do not change the date at the top of the document. It will get rejected. Okay. Do not change document dates within documents. It will most likely get rejected. Document dates next to signature line, get confirmation of what they want you to do. Some title companies or lenders want you to have the borrower correct those dates. Some lenders do not want you to correct that date. If you have a split signing with 2 borrowers in 2 different locations and you're doing a signing for Quicken Loans will have the documents dated for the last borrower. The only corrections you can make without getting permission are in your notary certificate. You always have just full permission to make corrections to the venue, to make corrections to the name and to make corrections to the date. Okay. Now, I say that there's one lender that doesn't want corrections, but they will provide the corrected documents for you. And that's Provident. Provident Funding does not like corrections at all anywhere in the documents, even if it's in the notary section. But if you let the hiring company know that you need the county changed on the venue, or you need a middle initial added on the notary certificate, they'll get it to you even late in the day, really fast. They're really good about that. But other than that, if you're in a signing, and I get this call a lot, especially from new notaries, okay, and I'll have notaries say, I can't notarize this document, and I'll say, why can't you notarize this document? What's wrong? Where's the fire? And they'll say, it says Washington State on it. I'm in California. I can't notarize this. So that is something you can notarize, right? You're going to change the state. You're going to draw through Washington. You're going to write California. You're going to initial it. You're going to do the same thing for the county. So you can always 100% make corrections in your notary section, except for Provident Funding, if you ever do Provident stuff, okay? You can always correct the name to match the ID, and you can always correct the date that you sat down with the borrower. You should never allow dates to be wrong in your notary certificate. Otherwise, that's a wrongly executed notarial certificate, okay? And then there's the only other exception to that. So corrections to notary certificates, you can do. Corrections not made and borrowers didn't initial on notice of right to cancel. So the notice of right to cancel, I'm sure now, if you've done any refinance and you've taken your NNA certification and you've listened to Mark, you've heard all about the notice of right to cancel, right? So the notice of right to cancel, the transaction date should almost always, I'm going to say about 85% of the lenders require that the transaction date is the date that you sit with the signers. Now, it's not regulatory. It can be a future date. It can be the date the documents were drawn, because the second statement is in there that, the date that you actually met with them. There's three statements. But most lenders will reject the document if you don't correct the transaction date and the last date to cancel, right? So Prestige Notaries has a rescission calendar. The NNA has a rescission calendar. This is why we provide that. We always expect you to look at the notice of right to cancel, look at the day that you signed, right? Today's the 13th, May 13th. Rescission ends May 17th. And how do you make corrections? You let the borrower scribble it out? No. So you make corrections by drawing one line through the incorrect number. You write the correct number, and for the notice of right to cancel, the borrower initials that correction. If it's a blank, you make sure that the blank is filled in and the borrower initials that date, okay? So notaries initial corrections they make in their notary certificate. Borrowers initial corrections they make to their notice of right to cancel, okay? And oftentimes we see where, like another common error we see is when borrowers accidentally sign within the I wish to cancel box. It's very common that the notary doesn't see that because they're just hurrying through. I understand we're all trying to get a lot done here, but you have to really pay attention. And I don't care how many times you tell a borrower, don't sign up here, sign at the bottom. They're not listening half of the time. So when you hand them that document, cover it up. Say, okay, I don't sign here. Show it to them. Don't sign here. Sign the bottom one. And then you watch them like a hawk, because if they sign in the wrong one, you only have so many extras there. Missed initials when requested on bottom of deed of trust, mortgage, note, and riders. Okay. So That's, the initial lines are small and they're thin and they're so easy to miss, but recordable documents. So, and I'll be happy to share my little expectations document that I send out, but here's a list of most of the recordable documents: deed of trust, mortgage, riders, anything that says a rider is on it. A lot of times those documents require initials at the bottom right hand corner. When you initial those, you don't want to go, it's like right here, you don't want to go into the margin. You want to stay on the initial line or to the left of it, but don't initial if there is no initial line. And then the note often has it too. Missed fresh signature on tax forms, any tax form. All right. So any tax form that you get a copy of that's already been e-signed or is a copy of their signature, please have the borrower sign it again. All right. So there's documents like the 1040, the Schedule C, K1s, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, what else? Any sort of financial invoices, any sort of financial documents that are used in the underwriting of the loan. If they include those in the package, you make sure you have the borrower sign it. If it has a signature place that's already been signed, have them sign over that same signature, just like right above it. If it doesn't have a place for a signature, you want to go ahead and have them sign it, right? Other things that are going to be included in the documents, tax property, property tax profiles, anything they print off from the internet that has to do with taxes or surveys on the property line or utilities, anything that's informational, letters of explanation, any short statement or email that says, discusses employment, discusses unemployment, discusses ownership and property or a company, discusses marriage or divorce or a judgment or a lien, anything that it can affect their credit or the property, like access to the property. Any letter, just like a 1 or 2 or 3 sentence statement, is considered a letter of explanation. That's used for underwriting. And what that's for is they want the borrower they want something on file that has that the borrower provided that explanation and they've signed it, so that if it comes back later and the borrower lied, they can say, well, I have this letter right here that the borrower signed, so they're the ones that committed fraud. The lender didn't just be sloppy. So any tax forms, missed signatures on W-9s are really, really common. That signature place is again right in the middle of the form. And then here's some other things, having someone sign documents that they're not supposed to sign. So non-borrowers should never sign the note. Okay. I mean, there's in a blue moon, you might have somewhere where it says non-borrowing spouse, and they'll put a signature line because they really want the non-borrowing spouse to acknowledge the lien or the note, the new loan or the new debt. But 99% of the time, a non-borrowing spouse, also known as a non-borrowing owner, okay, or a non-borrowing owner, like for instance, someone, a brother and 2 brothers own a property together, but one brother takes a loan out on it. So any non-borrowing owner or non-borrowing spouse, they're not going to sign the loan application. They're not going to sign the note. They're not going to sign most of the loan documents. They're only going to sign the recordable documents, right? And a couple other documents like a compliance agreement. They might sign a signature name affidavit, but not always. So, and a couple of escrow documents. When I say escrow documents, I mean documents that the title and escrow company or law firm, documents that's for them. Missing copies of IDs used for Patriot Act form. Now, that one's kind of a hit or miss. This one is very specific to the lender you're working with or the signing service or the title company. Just read your instructions. If they're asking for copies of IDs, make sure you get them copies, upload it to Notary Dash or SnapDocs or signing order, or have the borrowers provide you a copy for whenever you get there. Like, let them know ahead of time to have a copy of their ID ready if they have that ability. But one of the things we see a lot with brand new signing agents is that the Patriot Act form is not completed, right? So we get, or the identification verification form, but some lenders call it that. So incomplete Patriot Act forms, because they see the little signature line says settlement closer or settlement officer or something like that, right? That form was traditional whenever they created it. The settlement officer or the closer was the one that used to do all the signings, but now the notary agent is signing agent. So anytime you see a Patriot Act form or a verification form, make sure you actually fill it out. You're the only one that is seeing these borrowers. So you're the only one that can do this verification. If it says something like settlement officer or title officer down there, just draw a line through it, write notary signing agent, and do not, for the love of God, do not stamp it. Do not stamp it. Incomplete disbursement forms. So I see this for two reasons. One, I see that notaries are just rushing through. They don't think they need to fill out forms and they don't fill it out. Or number two, they get to it, the borrower is paying money in, so they think they don't need to complete the disbursement form. Well, what happens is sometimes they've already wired the funds or they've already provided a cashier's check, and then all of a sudden they find out that the payoff is less than what it was 2 weeks ago because they made a payment, or they got an updated payoff, and now the borrower has paid too much, right? And they need to reimburse the borrower for the overpay. It might be $1,000, might be $2,000. Go ahead and have them, even though the borrower is paying in money, go ahead and have them sign this and just have them check mail. And you can tell them, let's go, like they don't have to go through the whole rigmarole or hustle of filling out the wire information, because most title companies don't like sending wires unless it's at least $1,000 anyways. But go ahead and have them just say, all right, if you do have a small, reimbursement check of $50 or $100, where would you want that check mailed to, right? And have them fill that out. Personal check accepted when not allowed. This is so important. And it is different for almost every single transaction, unless you're doing direct with a lot of direct with the same title company over and over and over again. This is going to change. All right. So what you need to know is when you get the documents, look and see if the borrower is bringing money in, if they owe any money at closing. If they do, hurry up and look at all of your instructions and see if it says anything about whether or not they can get a personal check, or if there's wire instructions in there, or if they have to get a cashier's check, who it needs to be written out to. If they are allowed to write personal checks, what are the parameters? Okay, I work with one title company that works in all 50 states, and they literally have a different rule for every single state. In some states, they accept checks up to $50. Some they accept personal checks up to $5,000. Some they accept a personal check for $500, a cashier's check for $1,500, and everything over $1,500 has to be a wire. The reason for that is most often it has to do with their insurance company. Their insurance company is protecting themselves due to like fraud in that state, or what's most common. So So it's not always just a policy that the title company can easily like waive. Sometimes it's an insurance issue. So this is one of my favorite ones. Oh, and by the way, if the borrower owes money and you don't collect money, whenever you update the signing status, whether you're updating on Notary Dash, signing order, SnapDocs, or by email or by text, tell the person how they're like when they're going to wire those funds. If they're wiring funds, they need to wire funds at least by the morning of closing. And when I say morning, I mean like 9:30, right? Like first thing in the morning, sometimes the day before. But if they are wiring, or if they're going to drop off a closing check to title, like make sure they know when that's coming and how they're going to send it. Notary stamp applied to document incorrectly. Now, and I even say here, notary should never apply his or her stamp next to borrower's signature just because she or he sees the word seal in parentheses. If the word seal is on a borrower's line, this is meant for corporate sealed if applicable, which is very rare. It also means that the person that's signing that, right, they're also agreeing to a contract term that is longer than the statutory limits in their state. All right, so most mortgages are 30 years, some are 20 or 15, some are 10. Most contracts can only be enforced for 7 to 10 years in almost every state. So the word seal, that's what that means. It's an old legal terminology. We often refer to it, say if someone is signing for a corporation, they have a corporate stamp that they use, and it says that they're authorized to sign. So we often say it's that. But for litigation reasons, if someone was to go into court, they would actually say that means the borrower is agreeing to a contract, is allowing that contract be enforced. So if it didn't have the word seal in it, and it was more than that term allowed, then in their state, after 7 or 10 years, their mortgage company would not be able to foreclose on their property, would not be able to enforce it, right? They wouldn't be able to take legal matters. So just because you see the word seal does not mean they're asking for your official seal. All right. The only time, and this is really with this, I want to tell you that when notaries tell me they've been doing this a long time and they answer our vetting and they interview well, and they're like, yeah, I'm an old pro, I've been doing this for 6 months or 2 years. If they put their notary stamp on the note, I know they have done less than 5 signings, period. Less than 5 loan signings. Because if they have stamped a note anywhere else, they have absolutely been called. It is never acceptable. It will get rejected. Lenders will not accept it. That is an error. They cannot white it out. They cannot just cross through it. It has to be signed again. So if a notary stamps this, I know they're brand new, and it's okay to be new. We all have to be new sometime, right? Like I was new once. But you never stamp anything. You never put your stamp on anything unless it has notarial language. Okay. Like I cannot say this enough. You have to know your notary laws. And I know I said that at the beginning, but you absolutely have to know your notary laws. If you know and understand your laws, then you will never make that mistake. Okay. So we're going to get one of the most common things: legal size documents shrunk and printed on letter size paper. It's acceptable in some states, by some title companies, by some lenders. We even have a title company in Texas that asks all of our notaries to shrink legal documents to letter. But you are expected, unless you have instructions that say it's okay, unless you have instructions that request it, you are expected to always print according to PDF page size, number one. Okay. There are lenders that will reject legal documents that are shrunk down to letter. Now, I know there's a lot of notaries here from California. A lot of lenders and title companies accept legal shrunk to letter in California. I believe in California, everything that's recorded is on letter, or it's cheaper to record letter size documents. One of those things. Don't quote me on that. But in the rest of the world and the rest of the country, shrinking legal to letter without permission is a big no-no. Legal size documents printed on letter size paper and the bottom 3 inches cut off. I just had this, and it was very bad. It caused the buyers to lose their deposit on a home. The seller refused to extend their contract. The seller put the home back on the market and sold the home for about $10,000 more. The buyers were completely ticked off at me. I just had to reimburse them $1,500. I'm just found out I'm also reimbursing them $550 for their appraisal as well. So they're ticked off. I'm using pretty language today. But I was yelled at. I was called all sorts of names just because the notary cut off the bottom 3 inches of the deed, the mortgage, and the note. Legal size documents scanned in as letter size and cut off 3 inches of the documents. So the notary actually prints correctly, but then doesn't scan right? So whenever we get scans and it's all letter and it was supposed to be, some of it was supposed to be legal, I'm like praying, please Lord, let the notary have printed on legal, and I call frantically. So that happens too. And let me say, scans are not always used for quality purposes. Sometimes we use scans for funding. Sometimes we even use scans for recording. Okay. So, make sure you know how to use your scanner. My scanner is it auto reads the size. Legal size scan sent too long after signing appointment, missing funding deadline. This happens to me every single week. All right, I'm so sick of scans and missed scanning appointments right now that at this point I've deactivated some notaries, because if we tell you we need documents scanned by noon and you accept that order, and we verbally tell you we need it by noon and you don't get us scans until 4 o'clock, and it's so inconsiderate. I cannot tell you how much we all get yelled at. If people are funding based on that, this is probably one of the biggest things that really irates me, is when a notary says they're going to send scans and then they do stuff and they get other jobs and they want to make more money. And I get it, but scans, and I hate scans. I hate scans myself. I hate doing them. But if you accept the job and you're going to send them in, meet your deadline. And I say that for all title companies involved. We have missed a lot of funding deadlines because of it. Package not shipped by deadline for next day delivery. You know what? A very good tip I tell, and I want all of my schedulers to ask notaries, hey, when is your shipping deadline for UPS and FedEx? Your signing's at 2 o'clock. Can you make the shipping deadline? When you take an order from someone, if you're signing and you already know that you're going to miss the shipping deadline, just tell them on the phone, or put it in Notary Dash or SnapDoc. Say, hey, FYI, the signing's at 4, and you want scan bags. I'm not going to make the shipping deadline. I'll ship it tomorrow. Tell them as soon as you get the order. If you know you're going to miss the shipping deadline, tell them. They might need those documents next day. They might think that you can get them out. Maybe they can move the reschedule it earlier, or maybe they can waive the scanning requirement, or they might have to give you all new docs if they're not closing the next day. Notary delivering documents missed delivery deadline. So in my neck of the woods, we do a lot of document delivery. And when title says I need documents by 9 o'clock in the morning, they actually mean it. So I'll just say enough about that they actually mean it. And I get yelled at all the time for it. Scans received are picture files instead of black and white scans, often not acceptable for funding. If you get a scan order, you know, don't accept it if you can't scan. You know, like I said, pictures don't work. We can't just turn them into a scan file. It's, you know, it can't work. Scans received not complete, causing title to have to merge with original docs, which takes a lot of extra work. I have had notaries do perfect signings, and then all they do are scan the signature pages and the notarized pages to us. And I've had title turn right back around and say, deactivate that notary. I don't want to ever work with them again. They don't want to do the extra work. They're paying you the money to do it. I know I know sometimes it's 10, 15, 25 bucks. Remember, negotiate ahead of time. If you don't think the fee is enough for the job you're doing, don't do a lesser job. Either don't take it or negotiate a higher fee. All right. If you take the job, you always have to do it in a professional way. Documents all out of order when title receives them, which takes a lot of extra time to reorganize for the lender. I mean, it's common sense, right? If title gets a messy package and it's all out of order, or heaven forbid there's coffee on it, or those little stickies, take your stickies off, take your little flags off. Title doesn't appreciate it. It jams up their scanner. Don't send it back to them messy. Notary shipped FedEx or UPS without obtaining a receipt from the counter. Docs are blamed on notary since the notary has no proof that she or he shipped. Get a receipt. Now, caveat, there are some areas that do not have a FedEx or UPS location that's local, right? We don't expect you to drive an hour or even 45 minutes to go drop if there's a drop box. Now, you should always ask, hey, do you want to pay me extra to drive 45 minutes? But if you live in a town like I do, where you can get a receipt, I'm sorry the line has gotten long, stand in line and get a receipt. It will save you, because if you put that package on the counter and walk away and they don't scan it and give you a receipt, if you drop it in a drop box and the drop box isn't picked up, even though you know you met the deadline, no matter what happens, it is going to be blamed on you. Ultimately, you are responsible for that package until it is scanned into the system. Okay. And that is a rule that my company lives by. That's a rule by what most title companies live by. Okay. So that's all the errors that I'm going to go over from the second. I'm going to see what kind of questions you guys have had, and if there's any hands waving. I see a lot of commentary. Looks like over 150 messages, so I'm sure that I'm not going to be able to read all of them. But let's see, I get a lot of jobs from Prestige. Oh, thank you. Let's see. Lots of pages. Yes, yes. Initials for joint applicants only. Yes. On the 1003. You know, it's probably like the same thing with the old 1003, Tracy, that it's like everyone's got different, everyone's got different answers for that. Ask the company that hired you. You know, it really should only be for joint applicants, but some lenders still want the initial there, right? Just like some lenders still wanted people to sign page one. Let's see. I haven't seen where they sign on the top of the new 1003. Has anyone else seen it? I've only seen the initial on the first page and signature towards the back. Rashida, that initial on the first page took the place of that signature on the first page. And that is to accept joint borrowers, but again, ask the title company if they want you to have individual borrowers, single credit initial it as well. Initial spot. Would you have borrower date on date that signing if different? So I only care, so Melissa Dominguez, I only care about the date in the notary section, right? I don't care about what date is in any other document. We can sign a month before, a month after. I don't care. I only care about the date that's in my notary section. That's the only thing that matters to us. Question about corrections. What if the hiring company, lender, real estate agent is not answering text, email, or phone calls about questions on corrections? What should we do? Oh, that's so frustrating. That's why, I tell people, if I don't answer if you can't reach my team or me, text me. If it has to do with somebody else, I would probably go with industry standard. If it's corrections on lender documents, I would tell the borrower, hey, there's a 50-50 chance that the lender will take these documents if we make corrections to your name under the signature line only. Don't deal with anything else. The correction agreement or the limited or specific power of attorney can address corrections within documents. All you care about is the name under the signature line. If you can't reach anybody, ask the borrower, what do you want to do? Do you want to go ahead and sign the way that they're drawn up? Do you want to go ahead and make corrections? Leave it on the borrower and but you always make the corrections in your notary certificate. You just tell the borrower, look, we've called everybody. Do you want, I don't know if you're going to lose your rate lock, or I don't know any specifics about the loan. It's, if you want to go ahead and sign everything and then reach out to everyone tomorrow, we can do that. That's what I suggest with most companies. And it says, hi, so Elisa, so lenders and title companies prefer us to use the certificates that come with the loan documents and make corrections. However, if the wording does not meet your state, you would have to add your own caveat. And there's a lot of misinformation that in California, a notary always has to attach a all-purpose acknowledgement to like the recordable documents if the recordable document from another state doesn't match their notary's certificate, and that's incorrect. In California, there's a specific law that says that if a notary is notarizing a document that's going to be recorded in another state, then they can notarize verbiage that meets that state's guidelines. So on deeds of trust and mortgages and warranty deeds that are being recorded in one of other 49 states, you do not have to attach a loose leaf acknowledgement, California loose leaf acknowledgement or jurat. Well, it would never be a jurat, but can an initial be on top or above another initial, or do they need to be side by side? They can be on top. They do not have to be side by side. If it doesn't have the California disclaimer, I put see attachment, add a proper notary certificate. I hope I'm right. Cassandra, I hope I answered your question. And also you can get a little disclaimer stamp. California, you can get a disclaimer stamp, make sure there's a box around it. And you can add that to your certificates. How can we get a copy of this list here? I'm going to provide this to Mark, and Mark can send it to everyone that's on the list. So Tammy, it's not illegal to take photos from your phone. I mean, I've checked the state laws. I haven't checked in the last 2 months, but I could be wrong, but it's not illegal in 50 states. Now they're like SnapDocs, Notary Dash. I don't know about signing order. You can actually open up on your phone. You can open up the app. I'm going to try and show you a little picture, and I know we're coming out of time, but I have a few minutes. If you go and click on the add new button, right? So I don't know if anyone can see this, but if you click on the add new document and it says take photo or video, you just take photo or video, you snap a picture of their ID. It uploads a picture of their ID directly into Notary Dash, and it does not save a picture of their ID on your phone. So that is completely legal. It's not being saved to your phone. Thank you, Deidre Thomas. Lee Cooper, just go with that. Yeah, borrower signature for the seal. How do we overcome this with the scanbacks? I have not started as yet. Can a FedEx receipt be electronic or does it have to be paper? It can be electronic. Absolutely. That's what I do. I scan all of my FedEx receipts into Notary Dash, or whatever signing, whatever platform I'm using. And then I keep a picture on my phone, and I have about, I don't know, 2,000 FedEx receipts in my phone because they keep just going back from phone to phone to phone. Let me roll down to the end and see. California disclaimer stamp, according to some time. Let's see. If I'm a New York notary out of Kings County, can I notarize in New York Dutchess County? So I believe in New York that recently changed, that you are not just authorized in one county anymore. Depending on when you got your commission, you do want to check with your current county, Marsha Parker. But New York and New Jersey were a little bit different for a while, where you had to get authorized or in every single county. I can't imagine having to do that. I know Louisiana has parishes, and you're only authorized in the parishes that you get authorized in. Hi, Terry Taylor. Yes. So for anyone, thank you, Tori. So you uploaded that. Thank you very much. So for anyone who wants to get onto Notary Dash, you just go to notary-dash.com and click on Notary here. Enter the email address that you have with the NNA to claim your account, update your profile there. And then last thing, how do you become a preferred signing agent with Prestige Notaries? Well, first off, I would say, I hope by the time you reach out to us that you know your notary law. Like, that alone is so impressive to me. When a notary tells me that they've researched all their law, they've read the books, they've taken whatever classes they can take. It's so important to me that you understand your notary law, that you've watched Mark's videos. And then you can definitely go on here and claim your profile, and then reach out to us. You can reach out to orders, ORDERS, at prestigenotaries.com, and just let us know that you want to get vetted, VETTED, vetted. So we put you through an interview to get, for us to start working together. Now, how do you become a favorite notary? You respond fast, right? You communicate. You don't change your scheduled appointments with borrowers without getting permission. Don't take a 2:00 appointment and then immediately say, hey, can I change this to 3? No, whenever you negotiate, you say, I can do this at 3. And if they accept you, then that's good, right? Don't renegotiate fees after you've been accepted. Negotiate fees beforehand. But understand, I would suspect, I think most signing services are paying probably $10, 10, sometimes 15, less than what they can. But more than that, if you're asking for $75 more, it's not in the budget. A signing service, or at least any signing service I'd want to work with, does not have enough money to just pay another $75. We don't even average $75. We average $35 per order. That's our goal. We actually, typically make less than that. And then don't make errors, right? Like, know your stuff, communicate, accept jobs, negotiate before, call the borrowers right away to confirm. Don't wait until the day before the signing. If the signing's in a week, go ahead and introduce yourself now. They're already probably waiting for your call, and then call and remind them again the day before in a week. Okay. Update the order, confirm on the systems. All of the systems have the ability for you to confirm, well, most of them. And then update your signing status, right? immediately after the signing, even while you're at the table, upload the IDs, hit signing, leave a little update. You can tell the borrowers, I'm just going to update and let the title company know that everything went okay and that you had this question and please call you tomorrow, and then send it off and then leave the table, right? That lets them know that this is how long it took you to do this signing. If the borrowers have questions, leave detailed questions for the title company to send over to the loan officer or real estate agent for the next day. And then with scambacks and shipping deadline, make those scambacks and shipping deadlines, right? Then follow up. Now, I'll tell you, if you don't hear from us about an order, we are a no news is good news, right? So if a title company didn't tell us that you made an error, then we assume that everything is okay. We don't follow up with the title company, 3-4 days later and ask them if, how did Shirley do on this signing? The title companies will give us feedback if it's bad and if it's really great. All right. Don't go to signings and try to sell your borrowers on life insurance or prepaid legal, or your favorite, chef stuff or whatever. Like if you have other gigs, that's great, but don't try to sell them to the borrowers, even if they ask you questions about what you do. Like, unless they go out of their way to like really say, hey, I want this. You know what? You tell them, hey, I would love to talk to you about this Monet, facial makeup, whatever, that I sell. I'll give you my number and you can call me, whenever at your convenience. I'm contracted right now on the title company's time. And so I really should focus on the task at hand. But if you want to follow up with me, later today or tomorrow or sometime next week, go right ahead. This is my phone number, So you want to make sure that no borrower can go back to a lender, a loan officer, a realtor and say, hey, Jennifer was trying to sell us prepaid legal, or Jennifer was rude. Don't ever say things like, I don't know who that company is. I don't know who that title company is. I don't know who that law firm is. I've never heard of this lender. I've never heard of that loan officer. Of course, you've never heard of that loan officer. There's like 155,000 loan officers in the state of Florida. Okay. Don't say things that sound negative. Keep things positive, right? We just had a complaint that almost cost me a client just because a notary told a borrower that they have never heard of a law firm. The law firm is our client, and the law firm is very ticked off, and we do about 400 signings a month for that law firm. So the notary just said, I don't know who I don't know who that law firm is. I've never heard of them, right? While they were waiting on hold to talk to them, to ask them some questions. So, you never know what kind of complaints the borrowers are going to say, or just mention. They might not even be complaints. They might just be statements. But don't get into anything that's controversial. Don't talk about religion. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about, anything that's in the news. Just pretty much, if the news is talking about it, don't talk about it. All right. So that's going to be it for me today. I know I went 8 minutes over. I've got to head to the airport. I'm getting on a jet plane. So,
well, can everybody give Jennifer a round of applause? Thank you so much. They're all muted, but I hear the claps everywhere. So JG, thank you so much. She was amazing. Any of those downloads, PDFs, send to me. I'll put them in the Facebook group for everyone to have. I might even just put them in the course, frankly. But thank you so much for this time. You are amazing. We're going to end for right now. Remember, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Tickets go on sale. There's only 300 left. Meet Jennifer at conference. Are you excited about conference, Jennifer?
Yep. Yes, I am. I can't wait to be there and see everybody. And I think we're going to try and get 1,000 people, Mark?
1,000 people in Las Vegas for the LSS Conference of the Year. Tickets are only $300. Like, come on. I made it as cheap as humanly possible. Cheap. So with that being said, everybody, I'll see you in the Facebook group. Jennifer, thank you so much. This will be recorded and in the course player by Monday of next week. Pay attention to the Facebook group. I'll be making the link for the training, for marketing training, probably tomorrow or Monday latest. So remember, these are every single week as long as you're a six-figure signing agent member. Be blessed, everybody. Bye. Thank you again, Jennifer.
Bye.